Welcome to episode 46 of Inside Politics, for teens, by teens, where I explore the politics and issues impacting our generation. I'm your host, Christina Lee, and today I've invited Kayla Sharpe, engagement editor for subscriber strategy at Politico. Kayla, thank you so much for joining me here today.
I'm so glad to be here, Christina. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So to start, do you think that you could give an overview of your role at Politico and what you do?
Of course. So I work at Politico as the engagement editor for subscriber strategy. So basically, what that means is that I work with a larger engagement and social media team, making sure that our content gets out to our readers and our audience in a way that's understandable and really engaging and spreadable for them. And I also focus specifically on Politicz Pro, which is our subscriber platform for policy professionals.
Understood. So I guess in what sort of things do you have to be mindful of when you consider your audience of Politicz Pro?
Well, I think the interesting thing about Politicz Pro and Politico readers in general is that these are people who are really well versed in what's happening in Washington. They understand the legislation, the power at play. They know what's going on. So we are wanting to give them information that's actionable, that's smart, and that's also accessible to them. So even though these are people who know what's happening at the highest levels of our government, we try to make sure that we're writing to them in a way that's readable. That's a way for them to understand. We're not just writing to robots. We're not just writing a ton of jargony language. We want this to be something that they enjoy reading and that they find actually useful for the work that they do.
Understood. And I also know that you also used to be a digital producer for Politico. And I guess could you talk about the differences in how political news is conveyed through a digital medium versus the written word?
Of course. So our production team is the backbone of the newsroom at Politico. They are in charge of fact checking, copy editing, making sure that everything on the website looks right, is tagged for the proper categories and topics. They do so much. And my 2 years as a digital producer really showed me the importance of making sure that our digital platforms are accessible. So many people are constantly reading the news from their mobile phones, from smartphones and tablets. They're not just sitting at their computers. And especially because the way that news is changing and evolving, we saw, this past election week, there were updates. We were looking at different states in different ways. We were focusing on different things as both campaigns took different approaches to different aspects of the election. So it's so important for a digital production team to be on top of that, communicating with editors, communicating with reporters, and figuring out the best ways to make sure that our audience has an accurate view of what's changing, and also so that they can have a forecast of what they should be looking out for in the future.
Understood. So what do you think are the pros and cons of using a digital form to convey news?
Well, I think one of the coolest things about a digital form is that it's spreadable in and of itself. I always love the idea of spreadable media. It's making content that people find engaging, and not only are they going to engage with it and read it, but they're also going to take that and they're going to share it to their Instagram story, which means that all the friends in their network are going to see that, and they're going to maybe be exposed to something through a friend that they wouldn't have been exposed to on their own page or on their own algorithm. So I think that's a really important thing. I'd say that's the biggest thing about spreadable media. That's the biggest pro. It's also, as I mentioned, it's the ability to react to and adapt to the way that news is working. It's about giving people a look back and a perspective of perhaps the past 4 years of the current presidential administration, and letting them know what are things that you need to know, but also having up to the minute coverage of what's happening now, and not just what's happening now, but again, how this is going to affect the future, what conversations, what power struggles are going to be happening in the hours or days or weeks to come. So being able to find a way to really draw audiences in and capture their attention, but keep them coming back for more is one of the biggest things.
Understood. So I guess do you think that the visual component of seeing a video, is more impactful than just reading an article?
I think so, because it allows you to hear the actual voice of the people who are sharing a story. I've seen so many great written pieces about, for instance, immigration issues or people who are trying to, better their lives in certain situations. And I think the written word is definitely not going to go away because that is such a powerful medium. I think that the importance of video and visual journalism is to supplement that and to enhance it in ways that allows the audience to really understand these people, to hear their own voices, to see the environments that they're living with or the communities that they're working with. And it just adds another layer to that emotion. And ultimately, it helps people not just be more informed, but also to be invested in the issues that are affecting people in our country and around the world.
Definitely. I think that one common, I guess, a complaint that I see from my friends is that like they think that politics is just like really boring, just like they're just making policy and it's just like old white men screaming at each other on Capitol Hill. So I think that this aspect of like humanizing politics is really important. Yeah, so I think like do you see digital, or I guess do you see the future of political journalism transitioning more so towards this digital format, or do you think that there's always going to be written articles around?
I think written articles are definitely going to stay, but I think that as we want media to be more spreadable, as we want more people to be able to engage with it real time, up to the minute, and also use interactive tools. For instance, on election day, Politico had a whole lot of interactive news trackers on our election results page, where you can see the different pathways for both Joe Biden and President Trump to win the White House. So people are going to want to be able to be more involved in the media. They're going to want to see what reporters are doing. They're going to want more transparency into that issue. And they're also going to be wanting to feel like they have a stake in this. So I think that digital media provides those outlets to comment, to share, to add your own perspectives to things, but also to make sure that you're being informed. So I don't think print media is going to go away anytime soon. But I think as more members of Gen Z, more young people like yourself get involved in this, it's just natural for that information to make more and more of its way onto digital media platforms.
Definitely. And I guess like in your experience, do you see, I guess, like generational differences in the way that these people engage with digital media?
I mean, we all have like the classic, breakdowns of, more baby boomers, more older people might be watching nightly television. They might be reading physical newspapers that they have delivered to the homes. And younger people are more inclined to use social media, which is why I think you see more news outlets maybe making their way onto TikTok or making, the Instagram platforms more of a presence. Ultimately, I think that everyone is looking for the same thing. They want to be informed, they want to feel smart, and they want to feel like they have an understanding of what's happening, and they want to also have information to hold their leaders to account. So I don't think it's so much of a matter of platform, but I think it's a matter of presentation and how we draw those audience in to not just all publication, but to every publication to make sure that they're focused on the topic and then bring them into Politico and the particular coverage that we have to offer that's unique from different publications that are available.
Understood. And I guess like when you like do you think like how like when we think about like all of these different forms of media that we can like that we can use to consume our political news, like how like do you think that like somebody like a person should like consume like a mix of the two, or is it fine if they only consume exclusively one form of media news, if that makes sense?
I think it's definitely good to get a mix because um, I think whether you're looking at just mainstream media, like there's so many different ways that publications are going to go about reporting things and the things that they focus on. If you listen to a podcast summing up, the past week from Politico, it's going to be different than the New York Times or from NPR. All three of those platforms are going to have really diverse perspectives and really great reporters who have different leads, who have different guests, who have different perspectives. So my favorite thing is to go ahead and look at all the different platforms and see how are they covering the election week on an audio platform versus a video platform versus in print versus what interactive tools do they have. I think that the diversity in our media space is one of the most exciting things about it. So I would definitely encourage people to continue to find news sources that are reliable, that are truthful, and that you can really engage with the reporting. Because the way that one newsroom reports and interacts with you might be different than another one. And if there's one that particularly speaks to you, then feel free to use it as your home base, but don't forget to expand your horizons.
Definitely. So I guess like for the Gen Z viewers who view this podcast, and if they're looking for advice on how to get their political news every day, I guess like how does your perspective inform what you would say to them?
I would say find ways to engage it into your daily lives. You use Instagram, go ahead and follow newsrooms, but not just newsrooms, but also journalists on Twitter and on Instagram. That way, when you're scrolling through, it's just brought onto your feed. You don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to pay for an extra subscription for that. I'd say that's the biggest thing. Add a couple of podcasts to your Spotify or to whatever podcast app that you use. NPR has a really great podcast called Up First that I really enjoy listening to. It's one of the first things that's on my list in the morning. So go ahead and add that to your daily routine when you're walking to your college classes, or when you're brushing your teeth, or when you're, on the metro or going somewhere. Add these things to your daily routine and tell yourself that it's an investment for your future and for your understanding of our country.
Definitely. All right. Thank you so much, Kayla, for joining me here today. I really appreciate your insights. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see everybody next time on Inside Politics.
Thanks so much, Christina. It was great talking with you.
Hi, everyone. This is Christina. Thank you so much for watching Inside Politics. And please feel free to check out the rest of the interviews on my channel. See you next time.